Y'all better sit down for this one, because the tea is so hot it's about to scald the entire internet. We have just obtained some leaked, and we mean leaked, direct messages that are threatening to blow up the most complicated and painful relationship in rap right now. We are talking about Asian doll King Von and Lil Durk. You thought the drama was over. You thought the wounds had healed. Think again. A secret digital conversation allegedly between Asian doll and the mother of King Von's child, India, has just surfaced. And the contents are so shocking, so explosive, that they rewrite everything we thought we knew about the loyalty and betrayals in that inner circle. The messages suggest that while Von was still here, the lines of communication were far more tangled and secret than anyone ever imagined. We are talking about private information, personal feelings, and conversations that should have stayed buried. This isn't just about past beef. This is about a potential betrayal from within that strikes at the very heart of Von's legacy. If these messages are real, then everything we know about the bonds between these people is a lie. So grab your headphones and hold on to your seats, because we are diving deep into a scandal that connects the past to the present in the most devastating way possible. The question is no longer about what happened, but about who knew what and when. The leaked messages, a series of screenshots that first appeared on a private forum before exploding across social media, paint a picture of a secret alliance that no one saw coming. The timestamps on the messages place them in a critical period, just a few months before King Von's tragic passing. In these texts, the conversation allegedly begins casually, with Asian doll and India discussing fashion and mutual acquaintances. But the tone quickly shifts. Asian doll, according to the messages, begins to express deep frustration and heartbreak. She texts, "I just don't know who to trust anymore. He says one thing to my face, and then I hear another thing from the streets." She is clearly hurting, feeling isolated and paranoid. India, in her responses, is portrayed as a sympathetic ear, a confidant. She writes back, "Girl, I understand. These men move different. They have too many yes men around them. You just have to protect your peace." This seems like standard girlfriend support, but then the conversation takes a dark and dramatic turn. Asian doll, seemingly venting, starts to share specific details about her relationship with King Von, details that were intensely private. She talks about arguments they had, about his suspicions of other people in his circle, and most shockingly, about his own tensions with his then label mate and friend, Lil Durk. The messages suggest that Von was feeling a certain type of way about business decisions, about money flow, and about creative control. He felt, according to Asian doll's alleged texts, that Durk was making moves without him, that the brothers' narrative wasn't always matching the business reality. This was the kind of private, behind closed doors conflict that fans never saw coming. The bombshell, however, comes next. In one particularly jarring exchange, Asian doll, seemingly seeking advice, asks India, "What would you do if you knew something was about to pop off? Like, if you felt the energy was all wrong and something bad was coming?" India's reply, as presented in the leak, is chillingly specific. She allegedly writes, "Durk be knowing things before they happen. He always got his ear to the street. If I were you, I'd tell Von to watch his back around them new ears from the West. Durk been quiet about them, and that's when you know something's up." The implication here is earth-shattering. It suggests that India was not only listening to Asian doll's fears, but was actively feeding her information, or at the very least her own suspicions, about Lil Durk's knowledge and movements. She was, according to this narrative, telling Asian doll to warn Von about a specific threat and directly linking Durk's silence to potential danger. Now, this transforms the entire conversation from a simple venting session between two women into a potential intelligence exchange. The messages don't show Asian doll explicitly relaying this warning to Von, but the mere fact that this conversation happened at all has sent the fanbase into a frenzy. The emotional conflict is immense. For Asian doll, these leaks portray her as a vulnerable woman who trusted the wrong person with her most intimate fears and her partner's private business. For India, it paints her as a central figure in a web of suspicion, potentially whispering doubts about her own fiance's best friend into the ear of his girlfriend. The personal stakes could not be higher, as this leak directly attacks the legacy of King Von and the foundation of the entire OTF empire. The reaction from the public was instantaneous and volcanic. Fans of King Von were left heartbroken and furious. Many took to social media, their emotions running high, expressing a sense of betrayal. So while Von was out here living his life, his own day one's woman was in the DMs with his girl talking about Durk like that. One fan tweeted, capturing the sentiment of thousands. The Von fandom felt that these private insecurities and arguments were now being used to tarnish his memory and create a false narrative about his relationships. On the other side, fans of Asian Doll were defending her fiercely, arguing that she was a victim of a calculated leak. They claimed she was simply a young woman in love, trying to navigate a dangerous world, and she reached out to another woman she thought she could trust. They placed the blame squarely on India, accusing her of being a manipulative figure who collected information and now, whether intentionally or not, had it leaked to the public. The family, meaning the extended OTF and Von family, was left visibly divided online. Kayla B., Von's sister, posted a single powerful word on her Instagram story: vultures. The comment was widely interpreted as a shot at everyone involved in the leak for digging up painful history and exploiting her brother's name for drama. The digital world was now a battlefield, with everyone choosing sides, and the first shots in this new war had just been fired. But the biggest question on everyone's mind was a simple one. How did these incredibly private messages from years ago suddenly find their way into the light? And more importantly, who stood to gain from this explosion now? The mystery was only beginning. The digital firestorm was raging, but the central players remained locked in a deafening silence. For 24 hours, neither Asian Doll nor India said a single word publicly about the leak. The tension was building with every passing minute as fans and critics alike dissected every syllable of the alleged messages, searching for clues and waiting for the inevitable explosion. Then, the dam finally broke. It was Asian Doll who broke first, and she did not come with a gentle statement. She went live on Instagram, and the energy was pure, unadulterated fury. Her eyes were red, her voice trembling with a mix of rage and pain. She didn't even say hello to her viewers. She just launched in. "Y'all are some sick individuals," she began, staring directly into the camera. Sick to take a private conversation from years ago, from a time when I was lost, when I was hurting, when I was scared for someone I loved, and twist it like this, to use Von's name for your clout. That is disgusting. She confirmed that the messages were in fact real, but she vehemently denied the narrative that was being spun. "This wasn't me spilling no tea," she shouted, her voice cracking. "This was me being a victim of a snake. I was confiding in someone I thought was my friend. I was telling her about my fears, about the arguments me and Von had, because I had nobody else to talk to. And she sat there, pretending to be my sister, all while gathering information." Asian Doll then dropped her first bomb. She alleged that India's motives were not pure from the start. "She was never my friend," Asian Doll claimed, her words measured but sharp. "She was using me to get information about Von. She wanted to know what he was thinking, what he was saying about Durk, about the business. She was a spy, plain and simple. And when I realized it, I cut her off. That's why those messages stopped, because I saw through the fake love." This changed everything. If Asian Doll was to be believed, then India was not a sympathetic confidant, but a calculated informant, potentially feeding information from Asian Doll back to Lyle Durk. The emotional conflict deepened exponentially. Asian Doll was now positioning herself as the wronged party, a woman whose trust was brutally violated during the most vulnerable period of her life. Her personal stake was her truth and the sanctity of her private moments with King Von. She ended her livestream with a tearful plea. "Please, just let Von rest in peace. Stop using him. Stop using me. This is so hurtful." The live ended, and the internet was sent into another tailspin. The story was no longer about what was said. It was about why it was said, and the alleged deception behind it. The ball was now squarely in India's court. The pressure was immense. The entire world was waiting for her response. Would she deny it? Would she confirm Asian Doll's version of events? Would she throw more fuel on the fire? She waited a full 12 hours, letting the accusations simmer. When she finally responded, it was not with a live stream, but with a series of carefully crafted Instagram stories. Her tone was the complete opposite of Asian Doll's raw emotion. She was calm, cold, and dismissive. Her first story read, It's funny how the narrative changes when you get caught in a lie. The second one was more direct. Nobody was spying on you. You were the one constantly hitting my line, crying about your relationship, telling me things I didn't even want to know. I was trying to be a supportive big sister because I felt sorry for you, but clearly, you've rewritten history in your head. She was painting Asian doll as unstable, a liar, and the architect of her own misery. Then, India posted her third story, and it was the most shocking twist yet. It was a new screenshot, one that had not been part of the original leak. It showed a message, allegedly from Asian doll to India, from around the same time period. In the message, Asian doll was pleading with India. The text read, "Please just ask Durk to talk to him. Vaughn will listen to Durk." I'm scared he's gonna do something stupid. I need Durk to calm him down. This single message was a game changer. India's caption alongside it was simple. What? So which one is it? Was I a spy, or were you begging me to have my man help you control yours? You can't have it both ways. This new evidence completely reframed the narrative. It suggested that Asian doll was not a victim of India, but was actively seeking her and Durk's help. It made her earlier claims of India being a manipulative spy seem flimsy and contradictory. Fans were shocked, their heads spinning from the new information. The family was left more divided than ever, with some seeing India's receipt as a clear victory, a definitive proof that Asian doll was lying. Others saw it as a cold and calculated move, a proof that India had indeed been saving receipts for years, waiting for the right moment to use them. The war was now a brutal back and forth battle of receipts and reputations, and the memory of King Vaughn was caught directly in the crossfire. The initial leak had opened the door, but the responses had blown the entire house down. The fallout from India's receipt was immediate and brutal. The court of public opinion, which had been somewhat sympathetic to Asian doll's raw emotional plea, now swung sharply in India's favor. Comments flooded social media praising India for her calm and collected clapback, while Asian doll was widely mocked for her fake tears and seemingly contradictory story. Memes were made, tweets were fired off, and the narrative solidified. Asian doll was a messy liar, and India was the unbothered queen who had simply defended her man and her truth. The emotional toll on Asian doll was visible. She went completely silent on all platforms, a stark contrast to her previous fiery livestream. Her fans were worried, flooding her comments with heart emojis and words of support, but the overall noise was overwhelmingly negative. It seemed like India had won the war with a single well-timed screenshot. The drama, for all intents and purposes, appeared to be over, but then a new unexpected voice entered the chat and it changed everything. King Vaughn's own mother, Mama Vaughn, decided she could no longer sit back and watch her son's name be dragged through the mud. She went live on Instagram, and the pain on her face was palpable. She didn't address either woman directly at first, instead speaking to her son's fans. "I am tired," she said, her voice heavy with grief. "I am so tired of this. Every time I try to heal, something new pops up to tear the scab off the wound. My son is not here to defend himself. His memory is not a weapon for you to use against each other." She then took a deep breath and waded directly into the conflict. "I saw those messages," she confirmed, "and I know things that y'all don't know. Let me tell you something about that time. Vaughn was stressed. He was under a lot of pressure. And yes, him and Durk had their disagreements. That's what brothers do. But what I saw in those messages was one woman who was genuinely scared for my son," she said, a clear reference to Asian doll. "And I saw another woman," she continued, her tone shifting to one of clear disapproval, "who was stirring the pot. You don't tell a man's girlfriend that his best friend knows about a threat and isn't saying nothing. That's not help. That's called planting a seed of distrust." Mama Vaughn's testimony was a seismic event. Her word as Vaughn's mother carried an authority that no blogger or fan could ever possess. She was effectively validating Asian doll's core claim that India's role was not that of a helpful sister, but of a pot stirrer. She was calling out India's alleged manipulation from a place of maternal pain and authority. The live stream sent shockwaves through the entire community. The comments on India's page instantly turned. "Even his mama said you were messy" became the dominant refrain. The family was now publicly divided at the highest level, with Vaughn's own mother taking a side against his best friend's fiance. The personal stakes had skyrocketed. This was no longer a he said she said between two women. This was a mother defending the memory of her son and indirectly accusing a key figure in his life of contributing to the turmoil he experienced before his death. The emotional weight of Mama Von's words was crushing. The pressure on India became unbearable. With Mama Von's condemnation hanging in the air, her unbothered facade finally shattered. She deleted the stories containing the receipt, a move that many saw as an admission of guilt. But she didn't stop there. Later that night, in a move that stunned everyone, she posted a formal written statement to her Instagram grid. It was lengthy and carefully worded, a clear attempt at damage control. In the statement, she did not directly apologize to Asian Doll or Mama Von. Instead, she expressed deep regret for how my private conversations from years ago have been taken out of context and caused so much pain. She claimed that her intention was only ever to offer a listening ear and support during a difficult time, and that her recent posts were made out of frustration and a desire to defend my family from false accusations. She ended the statement by asking for privacy and healing for everyone involved. It was a classic non-apology apology, but it was a clear retreat. She had gone from attacking with a receipt to defending herself from the wrath of a grieving mother. The power dynamic had completely flipped. The focus was now entirely on her alleged role in the drama, and the question on everyone's mind was whether Lil Durk, the king of his own castle, would break his silence to defend his queen, or if he would let her face the storm alone. The war was not over. It had simply entered a new, more dangerous phase. The silence from Lil Durk was the loudest sound in the room. As his fiancée was being publicly called out by the mother of his late best friend, the man at the center of the entire storm said absolutely nothing. He didn't post, he didn't go live, he didn't even like any of India's posts. His social media was a ghost town. This deafening silence spoke volumes and sent a new wave of speculation crashing through the internet. Was Durk furious with India for her role in the leaked drama? Was he distancing himself to protect his own brand and his relationship with Von's legacy? Or was he simply processing the fact that his own private business and his late brother's private business was now being dissected by millions? The emotional conflict for Durk must have been immense. On one side was the woman he was building a life and a family with. On the other was the sacred, pain-filled memory of his day one brother, a memory now guarded by a grieving mother who had just indirectly accused his fiancée of betrayal. His personal stake was a no-win situation: defend India and risk alienating Von's entire family and fanbase, or stay silent and let the mother of his child drown in the court of public opinion. This is when the story took its most unexpected and dark twist yet. An anonymous source claiming to be close to the OTF inner circle reached out to several media outlets with a bombshell allegation. The source claimed that the entire leak of the DMs was not a random hack or a simple betrayal. They alleged it was a deliberate, calculated leak orchestrated by someone within Durk's own camp. The motive? To create a smokescreen. The source explained that Durk was facing immense private pressure from the Von family regarding Von's estate, including royalties from his music and the use of his likeness. The negotiations were reportedly tense and not going in Durk's favor. The leak, the source alleged, was a strategic move to change the narrative by creating a massive public drama that painted India as a victim and Asian Doll as a liar. It would redirect the fanbase's anger and scrutiny away from the business disputes and onto a salacious personal beef. It was a classic case of wag the dog. If this allegation was true, then Asian Doll, India, and even Mama Von were all just pawns in a much larger, colder game of financial and reputational chess. The fans were left reeling, their minds blown by the possibility. The emotions ran higher than ever as people tried to decipher what was real and what was a manipulation. The reactions to this new conspiracy theory were violently divided. Some fans found it all too easy to believe, pointing to the timing and the convenient way the initial leak had shifted conversations away from other, more complex OTF business news. Others called it ridiculous, a desperate attempt by Asian Doll's team to make her look like a victim of a grand conspiracy. The family, meaning the broader OTF and Von ecosystems, was now more fractured than anyone could have imagined. Trust was completely eroded. Every post, every like, every silence was now analyzed for hidden meaning. Was anyone telling the truth? Was any emotion genuine? The entire saga had created an atmosphere of paranoia where the very concept of loyalty felt like a fairy tale. In the end, there was no clean resolution. There were no heartfelt apologies between Asian Doll and India, no public embrace between Durk and Mama Vaughn. The drama simply faded from the front page, replaced by the next viral scandal, but the damage was permanent. Asian Doll, though vindicated by Mama Vaughn, was left emotionally scarred, her private grief forever etched into the digital record. India, despite her retreat, had her character permanently questioned, her name forever linked to whispers of being a spy and a pot stirrer. And Lil Durk, his silence throughout the entire ordeal left a stain on his reputation. Many fans felt he failed to protect Vaughn's memory by not publicly condemning the leaks and the pain they caused his mother. The leaked DMs, whether a simple betrayal or a complex conspiracy, succeeded in doing one thing. They forever altered the story of King Vaughn's final days, casting a shadow of doubt, manipulation, and deep-seated betrayal over everyone he left behind. The tea was spilled, but it was poisoned, and everyone who took a sip was left with a bitter taste that would not soon fade. So there you have it. The story that started with a few leaked messages and exploded into a full-blown conspiracy that rewrote everything we thought we knew. We went from a private chat between two women to allegations of spying, from tearful live streams to cold, calculated receipts, and finally, to the most painful twist of all, a grieving mother having to step in and defend her son's memory. But just when we thought we had the whole story, we were hit with the most shocking theory of all, that this entire emotional tornado might have been a carefully orchestrated distraction from a bitter financial war behind the scenes. The question is, do you believe it? The truth is, we may never know what really happened in those DMs and who truly pulled the trigger on leaking them to the world. That's the most frustrating part. Was Asian Doll a victim of a snake? Or was she simply caught in her own contradictions? Was India a manipulative informant? Or was she just a woman trying to protect her family who got caught in the crossfire? And what about Lil Durk? Does his silence make him guilty? Or was he just trapped in an impossible situation? The biggest question of all still remains. If the conspiracy theory is true, was King Vaughn's legacy and the pain of his loved ones a price worth paying to win a business battle? This is where the conversation truly begins. The comment section is yours, and we need to hear your verdict. What is your take on this entire messy, heartbreaking situation? Who do you believe? Do you think the leak was a random act or a calculated smokescreen? Do you think the relationships broken in this scandal can ever be repaired? The digital jury is now in session, and your opinion is the most important one. If this deep dive into one of the most complex dramas in rap has your head spinning, you cannot afford to miss what we break down next. The world of hip-hop news never sleeps, and the twists and turns are far from over. Make sure you are locked in and ready for the next explosion. Show us you want more content like this by hitting that like button, and let us know your wildest theories down below. But most importantly, tap that subscribe button and slam that notification bell, because when the next bombshell drops, and it will drop, you need to be right here on the front lines, getting the tea while it's still scalding hot. This is your reality, and we are just reporting it. Stay alert.